Welcome to episode 10 of my Road to Unicum series. Today we're looking at the E75. This tank has a fantastic armor layout. The upper front plate is very thick, and the side armor is an unusually thick 120 millimeters. However, the lower front glacis is very soft. You can see here it looks like about 240 effective millimeters of armor, and what you can do is angle your hull about 25 degrees relative to the person shooting at you, and you can boost the lower front glacis to about 280 while also keeping about that value for your side hull armor. Now, as the top tier heavy on our side, a beefy heavy, in this Murovanka battle, I have an obligation to play like a heavy, so I need to get up on the front lines and try to attract a lot of fire and act as a meat shield so that my squishier allies don't take incoming fire. We slide to the right of this hill here. You can see that my hull is already pre-angled about 25 degrees to the right relative to the approach that I'm expecting. And we have a light tank who's down by F0, so it's letting us spot these tanks and allows us to get some early damage, which is great. And this T-34 is bound to disappear from our view, but we know that he's there. He's not angled at all, and my platoon mate and I are firing on him, and we take him out. Now, both sides have two arties. The American arties have an alpha value of like 1850, so even against a heavily armored tank such as mine, even if the shot doesn't penetrate, it's going to deal in the neighborhood of 800 damage, and even more for a target with less armor, especially if it penetrates. So I have a nice flanking shot on this 103. After taking the shot, I back up so that I'm effectively hull down. All he can see is the top of my turret. The cupola on the turret is a weak spot, but from this kind of distance, it's pretty hard to hit. And one of their arties just fired at me. It was just a minor splash hit, no major damage. I'm tracked, but since there are no tanks that have a good angle on me, I just wait for the crew to finish repairing it. That shot on the 103 on his turret as he's pulling back did manage to penetrate, and I was a little bit lucky there, but there's no reason that I shouldn't take the shot. There's scout on this side. I take a shot on him and I miss, and I have to improve the gun handling of this tank with both sets of aiming reducing equipment, so both the vert stabilizers as well as the enhanced gun laying drive, and I also take the rammer to speed up the reload. Now, the problem with this is I have very poor vision control in this tank. So, I'm kind of in an awkward position. Our light tank stopped pushing forward, and we know that there are other tanks out here like a Waffle TD, but I can't just sit back and wait, because just looking at the map, you can tell the western side of the map, we're getting wrecked. We're already down 2 tanks, and our arties are very close to being exposed. Now, I'm assuming that the Waffle is somewhere kind of directly ahead of me, so I'm already pre-angling my hull in case he pops up. Alright, there he is. And as he continues to drive to the right, you'll notice I take the time to properly angle at 25 degrees to the right and then land a heavy damaging shot. And the Waffle I'm not going to worry about. He's driving across exposed ground and gets taken out. And this T-30 is really beat up, so as soon as my reload is up, I'm so close, that's an easy kill. Right, you can see on the western side of the map, we're down to 1 tank destroyer. That's all that lies between our two arties, and we're still pretty far away from spotting the tanks in the southwest corner of the base. Notice I took a hit from their lower tier M40 arty, and it did about 800 damage. So, I can only eat a couple of those shots before I'm at risk of dying, and I'm thinking about going back to the base. Haven't quite pulled that trigger yet, as I want to see if I can spot any other tanks out here in the open that we can finish off. And I get lit, but I correctly guess where this tank was going to be. You can see I'm angling my hull at 25 degrees, and then I back up down below the lip of this little crest, so I'm hull down, bounce another shot, and you can see part of the benefit of having such high alpha. This gun delivers 490 damage on average with its AP rounds, which is fantastic. And between 2 shots, I've delivered over 1,000 damage. And what this does is allows a friendly T-34-3 to finish him off. So just 3 total shots, and we took out that tank. Now at this point, the west flank is completely crumbled, and I decide to flex back to base and ask the medium tank to come back with me. Now our FCM is pushing toward their cap, which is a big mistake, because the second he steps his toe in the cap, they're going to know that a tank is there, and it's going to be super easy for them to reset him and take him out. This T-54, I line up a really nice leading shot, and he stops like 10 feet away, but he makes a really critical mistake here. He drops from our vision, so we can't see him, but our T-30 takes a blind shot at his last position and takes him out. So if the T-54 just played conservative for the rest of the match and was only spotting, we would have lost for sure, because their arties, deliver so much damage. And as I talked about earlier, as a heavy, I have an obligation to act as a meat shield. And we can't play the waiting game here. Since they've got 2 arty and we have none, and those arties hit super hard, we're in a position where we have to aggressively try to finish off their tanks as quickly as possible. We're down by a 4 tank deficit here, and I finish off that IS-3. And you can see the cap is still ticking, so I know there's another tank there. And so as I'm driving up, I'm pre-angling again at 25 degrees. That's really kind of the optimal angling. And right when he spotted, I tap my hull just to the right a little bit. It doesn't matter, he doesn't actually hit me, but doing proper angling as a habit in real time, over the course of battles will save you thousands of damage, of HP damage that you would have taken potentially. Alright, so we've crawled back from a 4 tank deficit down to 1 tank, and right here you can see I wasn't properly angled. My side is overexposed, and so I took another penetrating hit. Thankfully, the tank destroyer's on my side with me, like this SU. He's pushing up aggressively. He has the right sense of urgency because we need to take out these tank destroyers since they are spotting for their arty. I land a nice damaging shot there. Again, the high Alpha 490 can deliver some incredibly heavy damage just with the armor-piercing rounds. Their top-tier arty just took out our T-30, and he has a very slow reload time of about 45 seconds. So during this period of time, we need to push up aggressively and try to finish off these TDs. And I make a huge mistake right here that could have cost us the match. I came out, and again, I'm very flat, and you can see I take a hit on the back side of my tank on the side armor, and I'm lit on fire, take engine damage, and I'm tracked. And if I didn't have a repair kit available, the second arty could have easily finished me off and we would have lost the battle. So that was a big mistake on my part. I managed to snapshot that SU as he's approaching our tank, and you notice I'm using this building here with side scraping techniques, so I'm hiding my Lower Front Glacis, the hull, behind the building and backing out. So our SU finished off their SU, which was huge. Now we just have to deal with 1 tank as a spotter. And you'll notice as I'm driving up, I am knocking over some of the trees and such. This really isn't recommended. If I'm an agile tank such as a medium, I try not to hit any of the trees so they don't know my approach. But in this particular case, I'm in a little bit of a bulkier, slower tank. And I know that we just got to get up to this T-28 and take him out as quickly as possible. So the SU has spotted him, and he's flanking the T-28, so he's turned sideways, which is an easy shot for me to finish him off. And both arties fired at the SU and landed 1 splash hit. So at this point, we definitely have a decided advantage since our tanks can aim so much more quickly than the enemy arty. But what's important to realize is that the arties, if they're sitting in a bush and stationary, can outspot either one of us. So you notice I'm using this hard cover and staying in the flatlands to try to mask my approach to hopefully spot them. But the friendly TD makes a huge mistake. He goes over the top of the hill, and he's moving slowly, he gets spotted, and you'll notice in a second here he stops and starts to reverse. He's probably been lit. His sixth sense has gone off, but it's too late. He gets nailed, and it's just down to me and the 2 arty. Given that these are both American arty, they're both pretty squishy, and I can switch over to high explosive. For ammo, I think in this particular case I would have done that in hindsight, but the alpha on this gun at 490 is definitely enough to one-shot either one of these tanks. So here's the Tier 9 American arty that just finished off my friendly TD, and so now it's a 1 versus 1, and I'm making sure not to stop. I don't want to give their arty time to kind of settle in his aiming reticle. And we've got each other spotted, so I'm just going to use my speed to carry me around the hill, and I'm pre-aiming so that when I come above the ridge of the hill here, I can quickly fire on him. And in that case, I don't wait for the full aiming reticle because I'd rather take the shot too early than a bit too late. It ends up being a pretty sizable carry. I deal over 6,200 damage, along with about 2,200 in spotting damage. In the next episode, we are looking at the IS, and you can vote in the poll with this video to let me know what you'd like to see after that. Take care.